Hello and welcome to Lesson 13 of Carry the Fire Foundations. Last week we explored values and how they shape every choice that we make. Today we're looking at one of the most powerful forces shaping modern behavior, the paradox of choice. I know I've said this a lot, but this is another one of those ideas that is right at the top of the list of things that every human really should know about being human, and especially about being human in the modern environment. Here's the simple yet monumental idea behind the paradox of choice. As the number of choices increases, we tend to make worse decisions and to feel less satisfied with the decisions that we do make. And that has enormous consequences for anyone who's trying to design a meaningful life, especially in our culture, a culture that treats more options as automatically better. Let's look at how this actually plays out in day-to-day life. In one study, 47% of doctors said they would delay an invasive hip surgery if one potentially helpful arthritis medication became available. But when a second option was made available, only 28% would delay surgery and try out medications. That's 47% to 28%. What that means is doctors who were happy to delay surgery when there was only one medication option became convinced that it was time to start cutting people open when a second medication option became available. Now this makes no sense. Two non-surgical options are better than one, right? And yet this pattern shows up everywhere. When employers offer more 401k investment options, people are less likely to invest. When grocery stores offer more free samples, customers are less likely to buy. And as we'll see, when people are given more options for how to live their lives, many people become less likely to choose a path they feel good about. Modern culture treats choice as an unquestioned good. More options, more opportunities, more freedom, more possibility. Every school district advertises this, every politician promises it, and every parent wants it for their kids. That more choice is good is baked into our modern culture. But comparable to most of history, the level of choice that we experience today is really pretty wild. For most of human history, people lived where their grandparents lived. All right, people live in the same place generation after generation. They worked similar jobs, whether hunter-gatherers, farmers, or blacksmiths. They practiced the same religion, got married in the same village, passed down the same stories and traditions, and followed shared rules and rituals. Life had constraints, but also clarity. Today you can live anywhere, become anything, believe anything, marry anyone, or no one at all. The number of choices is dizzying, and that doesn't even include the decisions we navigate each day. We have an absurd number of options for what we eat, what to drive, what to wear, what to watch on Netflix. The list never ends. Beyond creating the paradox of choice, this constant stream of options carries a steady cost. Decision fatigue, the well-documented mental exhaustion that builds as the day fills with countless small choices. The more decisions we make, the less mental energy we have for the ones that actually matter. And that's another reason setting good habits can be so important. More to the point, the first part of the paradox of choice is this. Human minds don't handle abundance of choice very well. Having lots of choices overwhelms us and tends to lead us to make worse decisions. But that isn't all. The paradox of choice doesn't just lead us to choose poorly. It also shapes how we feel after we choose. That's the second part of the paradox of choice. When the menu of possibilities is too large, satisfaction plummets. We become less happy with the decisions that we make. We experience what is called buyer's remorse. You felt this at the restaurant. Anytime there's like a massive menu and you order something and then spend the whole meal eyeing what someone else ordered. You're eyeing their plate, wishing you'd ordered that. Now scale that up. College majors, career choices, who we choose in our relationships, the cities we choose to live in. Every choice of any consequence. Many people spend their entire lives living with this kind of low-grade sense of regret, constantly comparing their path to the imagined upsides of the path that they didn't take. We see other people's cool-looking job, the money, work travel, and lifestyle, but not the long hours, stress, and trade-offs that came with it. Or we see the opposite, how a person's job offers day-to-day flexibility and low work stress, but we don't see how that comes with financial stress and a yearning for greater impact. The grass is always greener on the other side. Or as another saying goes, comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison has always been something humans deal with, but in a world of infinite choice, where we are raised to believe we can do anything we want, buyer's remorse becomes something we really have to overcome. And all this choice creates another challenge, pressure. People can begin to feel like every choice has to be perfect, like because there are so many options, there must be a perfect path for them. So like you're supposed to design an extraordinary life from scratch. But on the contrary, the good life is more likely the result of commitment, of committing to a role and to people, and then becoming excellent within that role. In sum, as much as we celebrate having more choices, there are many downsides to our abundance of choices. More choice means life is far more complicated and we feel more pressure to get it right. But because of buyer's remorse, we're more likely to constantly feel we have gotten it wrong. These are pitfalls of modern life: choice overload, decision fatigue, and buyer's remorse. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard described two common ways that people respond to these pitfalls. The first is being lost in the infinite. People lost in the infinite are overwhelmed by all the possibilities. They keep options open. They analyze endlessly. They delay commitment to careers, relationships, beliefs, and communities. To some degree, this helps explain why more young adults live at home longer, delay marriage, and postpone adulthood. To be lost in the infinite is to be paralyzed by possibility, analysis paralysis. This can also manifest as the person who's always searching for the next best thing. They commit, then bail, commit, then change, never fully rooting anywhere. The second response to the tyranny of choices is to be lost in the finite. Overwhelmed by choice, these people follow the herd. They outsource their decisions to others. They do what others do, believe what others believe, scroll what the algorithm feeds them. They choose the safe, approved path without ever clarifying their own values. Social proof is one of the strongest cognitive biases that we have. We naturally look to others, especially those who are like us, to figure out how to act. And that's human nature. But in an age of endless choice and constant commentary, this tendency becomes exaggerated. Opinions are formed for us on social media before we've even had time to think. Reaction replaces reflection. And when we're lost in the finite, we never truly decide who we are and how we want to live. And we never realize how much larger life could be. Over and over, we fall into the finite, opting to follow others rather than trusting ourselves or going where the truth and integrity lead us. Being lost in the finite and being lost in the infinite are not mutually exclusive. Many people are lost in both. They never commit to anything deeply, while simultaneously outsourcing their day-to-day thoughts, opinions, and behaviors to the herd. They are passengers, occupied with distractions as they're conveyed through life without any real agency. The paradox of choice is something we all have to make peace with. No one handles this perfectly. Sometimes that just means noticing yourself obsessing over the wrong dinner choice, laughing at yourself, and then enjoying the meal anyway. But if you want to avoid the worst versions of being lost in the infinite and the worst versions of being lost in the finite, you need to develop a critical skill. You need to get good at acting. Not overthinking, not waiting for certainty, not keeping every door cracked open, acting. As James Clear puts it, we often avoid taking action because we think we need to learn more. But the best way to learn is often by taking action. Action is where real development and where real learning happen. That will be our focus next week as we finish out this theme. For now, I want to leave you with a few grounding thoughts on what good choices tend to look like, and then I'll have a challenge to focus on throughout the next few days. First, the principles of good choices. The best choices tend to put you around great mentors and good people. Early on in your career, I would chase good leadership over more money almost every time. The lessons you learn compound over time. Likewise, your relationships compound. Earning the respect of good people will open more doors for you than anything else. Choose environments where good people are the norm. In addition to putting you around good people, the best choices tend to help you build skills that are real investments. Imagine 2 summer jobs. One waiting tables for good money, but surrounded by shady characters. The second is working construction. I'd lean towards construction. Every man should work a physical labor job at least once, I think. It changes how you see the world, how you relate to others, and it makes you really appreciate how nice it is later on to get to work with your mind. And on top of all this, if you ever do own a home, you're going to be more capable of taking care of the things that inevitably break. You'll have skills you can lean on throughout your life. The last quality about good choices is they tend to keep you on the path of growth. Personally, professionally, or in character, these choices help you grow. We make bad choices when we chase status, what others tell us we should want, or when we avoid discomfort that we know we need to face. These are the 2 most common causes of bad choices: chasing status and avoiding discomfort. Good choices allow you to stay aligned with the person you want to be, because above all else, the best choices are going to align with your ideals. That's why we spend so much time on values, virtues, and ideals. When those are clear, you have a foundation strong enough to navigate a complex world without being pulled apart by it. As long as your ideals are right and you take time to reflect on occasion, no choice will be fatal. You'll learn and pivot. Confidence in this will help you develop the habit of being a little bit more decisive and taking action, because you know no choice is fatal. I once heard a story about a CEO whose company faced a major crossroads. Two teams had spent months analyzing competing options, researching, debating, and building exhaustive lists of pros and cons. Eventually, both teams came to the CEO exhausted and frustrated. They laid out the dilemma. They presented their findings and admitted they still couldn't decide what option was best. The CEO listened, he nodded, and after a moment he said, "Choose this one. It's the right move for the company right now." The team left relieved. The burden of choosing was lifted. They finally had a direction. Later, another businessman who'd been visiting asked the CEO, "How did you decide so quickly? There's no way you could have known everything that your teams had learned over the past few weeks." "You're right," said the CEO. "I didn't know the best option, and I don't. The truth is, it's close. Too close for analysis to tell us anything new. At this point, the only way to find out which option is actually better is to make a move. Once we act, reality will give us feedback. We'll either discover we were right and double down, or we'll see the flaws and we can adjust. But none of that can happen until we act." So that's the lesson. When two options are reasonably comparable, develop a bias towards action. Even if you are wrong, you're going to learn and adapt quickly. And this will make you smarter and better off in the end. You have to accept that mistakes will happen along your path. It will not be smooth and perfect. The more you take action and deal with imperfect decisions, the more your confidence will grow, because you're going to discover you can weather more than you know. And more than that, you'll begin to discover that there are just no perfect choices. There are just no perfect options in life. There's always a cost. Life is about making the best of where you are in each moment. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. That's a quote from the great Stoic and Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. The principle he was conveying is one called amor fati. This is Latin for love of fate. Whatever circumstance you are in, love it. Waste no time wanting things to be different. Love your fate and you will make the best of it. So your challenge for this week is to practice being decisive. See if you can't be a bit more decisive this week. When your choices are close, just decide and move forward. That is a tremendous skill for life. Make the choice. That's how learning actually begins. Good luck, carry the fire.